What's up, Denver? Welcome to our first episode of our second season of House Hack Mastermind podcast series. My name is Ben Einspahr, your host, here with my co-host, Mr. Jeffrey White. How you doing, man?
Always doing fabulous. How about yourself?
Oh, super excited for this round of guests, closing in this high interest rate environment. It's going to be a great season.
Absolutely. And this makes me even more excited for these two guests today because they both utilize my favorite strategy.
Which is?
Rent by room.
Yes. So both of our guests are implementing the rent by room strategy. All right. To kick this episode off, I am double fisting rum and water. Cheers. Let's get into it. All right. So first guest is Jordan Lindsay. Jordan is an avid REICO podcast listener for 4+ years. And after seeing friends purchase their first house hack, Jordan and his wife just closed on their second house hack. And keywords, I like what you put here: cooking, cocktail, investing, traveling, and golden doodle puppy.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it was a long conversation with my wife to go from living by ourselves to having others live with us.
Yeah. Awesome. Welcome, man. All right. Next guest is Jake Shumate. Jake was looking for alternative ways to invest other than stocks and mutual funds, stumbled across our house hacking guidebook, and then shortly after purchased his first house hack. What's up, Jake?
Yeah, closed on my first home back in April. And yeah, it's exciting to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick this episode off the same way Jeff and I have kicked off the first 10 episodes. Is I want to run through and give the guests an idea of the layout of your house hack, what makes it a house hack, and kind of why you're choosing this strategy. Jordan, I'll start with you, man. Let's hear about your second one, not your first one.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. So we just purchased down here in Southwest Aurora, and the layout of the house worked really well for my wife and I because we had done a house hack before where we were living on the same floor as, where we may rent out some space or there's shared space, and it adds a lot of stress to your living situation. So with this newest house, it is 3 levels. You have your main floor where it has all the shared rooms that you need. And then it has all 4 bedrooms upstairs with a master and then 3, full size bedrooms. And then there's a fully finished basement that's about 800 square feet. So contrary to, I think, what a lot of people may do, we're living in the basement where we have our own double living room space and bedroom and a bathroom. And we've only been there for about a month now, and it's already been working fantastic. So it's a great layout. With renting out the rooms, we're able to rent out all 4 almost as soon as we moved in. And so it made for a much easier transition into the house hacking realm that way. So a lot of lessons learned.
Do you have a little kitchenette done there for yourself and your wife?
So we actually did that at the other house. We haven't done it here, but we do have a mini fridge because we go to Costco and we buy a lot of our drinks, like bubbly drinks or like vitamin waters. Most of our fridge space back at the other house was all drinks. We're like, we need to cut this back. So we'd have a mini fridge. We may put a microwave down there or something, pretty basic.
Yeah. I like how you chose it's like the comfort versus income scale. And you chose, all right, we're going to go for the income over comfort by choosing the basement versus the upstairs, which could be more comfortable. Well, okay, I take it back. Is the basement more square footage and more roomy?
Definitely, it's like a mini studio.
Okay, so I take that.
It was an easy decision, but I will tell you, living in the basement's just very different than living upstairs.
Yeah,
yeah. Jake will talk on that too.
Yeah, I know. Awesome, Jake. Let's hear about yours, man.
So yeah, just like Jordan, I got a house back in April. It's up in Westminster, about 15 minutes outside downtown. I wanted to be I lived downtown for about 4 years. So I go downtown pretty frequently, so I wanted to be close. It's a 2,700 square foot property. Very similar. You got the main floor where it's all the shared common spaces, and you've got 4 bedrooms on the top floor. As well as there's a sunroom that's included, a decent backyard, small backyard. I grew up in the South, taking care of yards and growing up mowing the yard all the time. So I want the smallest yard possible. So less responsibility, the better. But to work my numbers a lot better, I ended up converting the dining room into additional bedroom on the main floor. So you've got 4 bedrooms top, 1 bedroom on the main floor, and then you got in the basement, just like his. It's roughly, I'd say, 600 square foot of finished, and then there's an unfinished part which includes this bathroom. It's hilarious. It's like a vanity, and you get this camper style shower. But, I'm not being picky or anything. It works out great for me. And there's plenty of storage space. So I basically take up the entire basement. And actually, I find it more comfortable. Yes, there is the temperature variance that can be a little bit annoying, but I don't have to do, I've lived with roommates for a long time, and I just didn't want to live with roommates. I do a lot of cooking too. So I had a kitchenette installed also in the basement. It's been great. It's been a great experience. I was able to get all my tenants in, 4 tenants in. Let's see, right after the first month after I closed, I was able to get my 5th tenant before my second mortgage was due. So it's worked out really well.
Nice work, man.
I'm
Nice
sold.
work.
Yeah.
So one thing you mentioned was you installed a kitchenette. And so when I talk to a lot of people interested in house hacking, one thing that they're very avid on is if the house doesn't have a separate kitchen or a separate cooking space, they're pretty avid on adding that kitchen. I'm curious on how your process was and how was that experience. 1, trying to add the kitchen, and 2, I'm guessing after you close, you're trying to get it done as quickly as possible. And so then while that construction is going on, you're delaying the amount of income you can bring in by adding tenants while a full-time job.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. No, it wasn't too difficult. I was able to get all my contractors in the week after I closed to get estimates, and then I just kind of went forward with it. I ended up having my handyman who he ended up installing. I ordering all my stuff from like Home Depot, for example. I had it kind of all laid out. It's pretty much a kitchenette. It's got everything. The fridge, dishwasher, sink. The only thing I don't have is like a stove, because it was going to cost extra to have the 220 volt plug-in installed. And ever since I got an air fryer like a year ago, like I've been sold on that, like all the way. Air fryer, and then also got basically like so then you got your pan frying, but it's a
Stovetop burner.
Yeah, it's a straight
Hot
top.
plate?
It's just a hot plate, but
hot
it's
plate.
actually convectional. It's the newest
Induction.
one. Induction. That's it.
There you
Yes,
go.
thank you. So yeah, I've got just 2 of them, but it serves really well. I mean, like I make eggs a lot in the morning, and it's just easy just turning that thing on, and it's worked out really well for me. So
Is it the unit itself is just sitting on top of?
yeah, it's just sitting on
something?
top of the counter,
Nice.
basically. So I've got my
That's
air fryer and then that next to each other. Now, I guess the trade-off is, yes, it takes up room, but I mean, so would a stove as well. So I found it to be the most value that I could add to the basement while benefiting from that. And I was still living in my apartment, so I didn't have to deal with like sharing a kitchen or anything weird. And that, like I said, I was able to get my tenants in, and they was. Let me add too is also have 2 fridges. There's a second fridge in the garage, and that's
Okay.
very important too when you have like 5 people living in the same house.
So Jeff, I know you've had you're known for finding those large bedroom houses.
Yeah.
Do you ever add a kitchen or ever add a refrigerator in the garage or a larger refrigerator, or do you do anything different?
My current place is in Lakewood, and it's a 7-bed, 3-bath place.
I would
And-
guess nothing less, Jeff.
But basically, similar to Jake, I know 1 refrigerator for the 6 other people there is just not enough, right?
Yeah.
It's like this French door refrigerator. It's a big fridge, but obviously people have some people cook all the time. They have a lot of this one guy likes to hunt deer. He has a lot of deer meat, something like that. Nice guy.
Is he taking up all of your freezer space?
No, I was planning ahead, of course, but I forced him to get his own little mini freezer space for his room, whatever.
Fair
It
enough.
worked out fine. But basically, I just separate the two, so like upstairs, downstairs. Upstairs, people get the main fridge, then downstairs, people get their own fridge and microwave and hot plate and coffee maker. and little shelves. So kind of they don't have to share everything. So it frees up the amount of fridge space, and then you just organize it based on, okay, room A or room 1, 2, 3, you guys get these shelves. It makes it very simple. And the same thing with cabinet space. You try to organize that the best you can. Because the same thing, if you say, free for all, everyone just put wherever you want, then you'll have those complaints of like, hey, so Jake's using my air fryer and it's my air fryer. But it's not. Like they just assume like everything's shared when it's someone else's stuff. So that way you avoid that conflict.
I've done the exact same thing. So all of my houses, this one has 3 fridges and our other house has 2 fridges. The third fridge is the mini fridge for our drinks, basically. So it's down in the dungeon with us. But I would add a second fridge to every house. This newest one's in the garage. The other one's in the basement, in the laundry room. So you definitely, because when you're going above 4 bedrooms, you have to have 2 fridges, I'd say.
And generally kitchens are large enough that you can separate them into 5, maybe 6 parts. Mine's been able to work out really well. Besides 2 fridges, I was able to separate everything. Everyone gets their own equal share. And while there's still actually shared space, and it's worked out really well. So
Jordan, question for you for your first house hack. So you've moved out of it and it's stabilized, right? And you're still implementing the rent by room strategy.
Yes.
Love it.
Self-managing.
Yes.
So who is managing? So we're in the middle of winter. Who's managing the snow removal, ice mitigation, and let's say in the spring, who's managing like the mowing?
I took care of the mowing by just killing off the grass right off the bat. I got your me too. There's a whole story behind that for another day. Regarding the snow removal, I'm glad you brought that up because I just had an extensive conversation with our insurance agent that was referred to us. So we switched all of our policies over, including our auto, our new landlord policy, and this current homeowner's policy, all to one carrier, to make it a lot easier. And I had an extensive conversation, and he's investor friendly, which is fantastic, talking about the snow removal and what he does to make sure that it is on the occupants of the household to manage. So whether you're living there or not, it has it there as kind of like a house rule, I'd say, that, hey, the tenants are responsible now for managing the snow removal, made sure that slip and falls were not an exclusion, just in case as well. So I think we have it set up properly where it's a part of the house rules. I do need to, I think, update the house rules to be included in the lease agreement. So at least it's signed, but it is written down. So yeah, we had a really good conversation about that, but it's when you're managing your own property, there's so many things you could miss. It is intense. And so that was one where it's just been a lot of, kind of further conversations as we've been moving along, where I'm learning new things and trying to set it up for the future.
Along those lines, that's great too. I think snow removal, lawn care, all that's very important. And you should also look into doing, renter's insurance.
Yes. Yes.
Very important, especially for rent by room, especially with all the personal property in their rooms. If someone ever stole it, you're not on the hook. Or
exactly.
If, it gives you a little additional layer of protection.
Yeah, that was a part of the conversation as well. That's in the lease agreement that it's recommended, basically. The fact that I think the homeowners policies and even landlord policies have that as an exclusion. So you're there to protect the tenants in that case. And I stand by it.
But it's recommended, not required. Do you have tenants that don't have renter's insurance?
All of them that I've talked to said they would sign up for it, but I don't ask for proof. And
Here's
so I
how
can't
you do it.
say.
Here's a quick tip. Put your name, tell them to put you as additional insured.
Yes.
That way, if they just say, oh yeah, I'll get it, and then they cancel it a week later, you'll know. It's like, hey, what the heck, man? You just
does that hold you any liability at all? I've never heard of that quick tip before.
They do that for mortgage companies too. They're the additional interest on the policy.
I like that.
So no liability. So you require it though.
I do, but obviously I have people that say I'll get to it and they don't get to it. Then I'd follow up, but try to get in the front end. That's what I learned is if you ask in the front end and to say, hey, part of sign a lease with us is we require renter's insurance. It's not so much for us; it actually protects you. So you kind of reframe it to help them instead of just like, oh, well, I'm just requiring it because I want to be super annoying.
Yeah,
it's actually benefiting you, and it's only a few bucks a month. and put me as additional insured. And then that way, if they do cancel it a month from now, 2 months from now, you'll know. And then you could follow up with them and say, hey,
Okay.
What's the deal? It's like, you just signed up for it and canceled it. It's not super expensive. Going back to the original conversation of it protects you. And along those lines, I think this is a great part of this podcast and get some real conversations. But what I really want to hear from both of you guys is expectations versus reality when it came from when you bought your first house hack and Jake just bought his, what you guys were thinking going into it from reading all the books, listening to podcasts, YouTube videos, all that stuff. And then what was the true reality, like getting all the operations set up, getting all the systems in place, filling all the rooms? Was it, just dive into that. I really want to hear that.
Yeah, I could speak on that, especially as you're looking at me directly. So yeah, I mean, it was overwhelming. And I was not expecting to be thrown through the ringer, everything at once, handling my regular W-2. Luckily I work from home, so it was a lot easier to manage a property, get the contractors in, get the estimates, and then start actually putting out advertising on Facebook Marketplace, trying to get tenants in. Like, it was all at once. And I think that's the one thing that people, a lot of the real estate investment or house hacking, that they tend to gloss over, is that they don't talk about, like, when you first buy this property and if you're self-managing, this is all your responsibility, and you want to make money off of it. It's, you want to get the highest ROI on it. You got to, hit the ground running and make sure you got to have the house filled. I mean, I was lucky. Dane, for example, he told me he was like, wow, you did a really good job. You was able to get like that many tenants in that quickly, because he had a property and it took him way longer to do so. But yes, I mean, like the books, they talk about the numbers, they talk about everything else, but they don't talk about the time requirement. I'm also like a handyman myself, so I was buying, a lot of my money went towards like tools and stuff. So like whatever, like contractor, when it comes to like plumbing, electrician, like really complicated work, that, I would hire out. But like drywall repair, painting and stuff, any other house maintenance. And that's the thing about it was my first house, so I had no idea what it's like. I've been living in apartments for the longest time, so I'm not used to the amount of responsibilities it takes to owning a house. And you can't make everything picture perfect, like, and that's what happened to me. Like, I got overwhelmed with responsibilities, and my yard ended up dying in my backyard. I couldn't figure out my sprinkler system.
He did do air quotes.
Yeah. So, I think it's, like I said, it tends to be glossed over, and I think it's something very important that should be included when people are being educated about real estate investment, particularly house hacking, if they're going to be living in the house while renting it out.
So from start to finish, from your date of closing you added the kitchen, and you're working your full-time job, working from home or on site?
I work from home.
So working from home,
I'm 100% remote.
That helps. To your first tenant signed, what was that time frame?
So I was able to get my contractors in. I was able to get most of the contract work done by, I closed in April 5th. And then April 4th, and then May. I was done with all the contract work by like mid-May.
Okay.
And the thing about it was all the 4 tenants was able to get the upstairs and everything. It was the dining room, bedroom that was the last one got filled, because that was the last bit of the contract work that got finished. Mm-hmm. And that was like mid-May. So that's what I was saying. I was able to get my 4 before my first mortgage, and I was able to get my 5th before the second mortgage.
Okay. So
awesome.
Would you say about a month? You about a month, or was it more? Excited? I'm seeing mid. Early April.
And let me also, I forget, I'm totally neglecting furnishings as well.
Yes.
So I got permission to use the previous owner's pictures, or the realtor's pictures.
That's important to get.
It's very important. And luckily, like, the pictures were really, really good. They looked great. Now, and I'm advertising this on Marketplace, and I get people come in, and then like right before like they actually come to the property, the house looks the same and everything, but it's empty. Like, I am also like not just dealing with the contractors, but also filling the rooms, but I'm also furnishing. I didn't finish my furnishings till like I think 4 months afterwards, because I'm also looking on Marketplace and I'm trying to get the best deals. I'm not buying new stuff. I mean, I bought a couple of new things, like the couches and whatnot, but I had some stuff that I had some friends that gave to me, but also I was just looking at Marketplace. I'm also very particular about the way the house looks. So I'm not just grabbing anything off Marketplace. I'm kind of picking and choosing. So it could be the time span. I definitely probably could have gotten it done a lot quicker than that, but it was just, I was being very particular on how my house is supposed to look. And right now, I still haven't taken new pictures of the house, and I may have to actually take pictures because I've got it fully furnished now. But yeah, if that answers your question, I'm sorry I just kind of went on a tangent. So
from start to close, how long was that?
I'd say about fully furnishing it, 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
4 months with.
But finding the tenants, you found 4.
I found my first 4 within let's say literally I got my first 2 after I closed. I got my first 2 before the end of April.
Okay.
And then I got my second 2 before the end of May. And then I got my 4th in June. I mean, my 5th in June.
With a full-time job. That's impressive.
With a full-time job, going through furnishing the place, fixing up the place.
Yes. It's a screening.
Using tools.
Oh, yes. Screening. Yeah. Also, I wasn't letting anybody in my house either. Yeah. I definitely had some creepers that came over. I vet them through Facebook messaging, but until you actually meet the person, you don't know.
I have 2 notes. One, Marketplace is just crazy right now for finding furniture, especially if you are particular like my wife is. I will say one thing that I think will make Jeff happy is we bought 5 couches for $400.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. We did an awesome job there. We had to deep clean 2 of them.
That's part of it.
Exactly. We got a crazy deal. Did you say you found all of your tenants on Facebook Marketplace though? Or most of them?
Yeah, most of them. I was also looking for short-term tenants, so I also have I follow Jeff's plan where I do a trial period, 2 to 3 month lease, and then if they really like it, then I'll extend the lease into 10 to 12 months.
I want to touch back on the screening because that's a very important part, especially for rent by the room because you're living with it, and you did touch on Jeff's screening process. It is amazing. I mean, on number 6,
it's definitely above and beyond compared to when you look at some of these rent by rooms that people are not house hacking, they're just like, oh, someone owns a family home and they're just renting out one room.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It typically is like, oh, you go in and it's either like verbal confirmation agreement, or maybe you might sign a lease, but you don't. Not a lot of people go through like the background check, the credit check, your previous landlord. Their employment references, there's a big long list, and it is a little bit extra work, but then that saves you the hassle of dealing with a bad tenant. Yep. And I've yet to have had a bad tenant.
So if anyone's wanting help or guidance on how to properly screen, vet, get tenants in, I'd highly recommend checking out Jeff's course. If you want to see that, go to our website. It's under Learn and just click courses, and it's right under there.
Highly recommend.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Jordan, tell me about your from start to finish. This is your second time going through, but let's just talk about the.
Yeah, so I had a lease signed before we closed, and I had another verbal confirmation before we closed.
Yes.
We had, and to my wife's demise, I know there's a lot of jokes rolling around, but the amount of work that it takes to have people moving in with you is, intense, especially when you want the house to look nice and, you are searching for furnishings and all of that. And I'm doing all the back end work with the contracts, and we both screen them in person, but I'm doing all the application work and all of that. So it's twofold, a lot of work. We had all 4 bedrooms filled. We closed middle of November, and the last person moved in December 1st. And then even with that, because it's holidays, people will sign the lease and then leave for a week, and not come back. So second go around did a much better job. The first go around, we weren't as concerned either about filling the rooms quickly because it was we were stepping into it toes at a time,
dipping your toes.
So we definitely went a lot slower on the first one. I'd say it was 2 months from our first lease when we first closed, which was August of 21. We bought this house 13 months later or something, and it was much faster, much better. Definitely helpful course by Jeff here.
Thank you.
Can't agree more. So it was a lot though with the marketplace and furnishings, because we did take some of our furnishings from the other house. And so we're going back and forth between North Glen and Southwest Aurora looking for furniture across the board, because we took like the dining room table and like the couch from downstairs. So that needs a couch and a table. And then like this needs everything else. So it was a lot for sure.
Do you think you would have done a better job with the knowledge you had for the second one if you had to go back to North Glen and start again?
Yes.
From scratch? What would you have done differently?
Screening.
Okay.
I can't say it enough. I would. So we got very lucky with the first tenant who is still with us, and he's a great guy. And we built a relationship with him while we were living there too. So it's a little different. And then actually during this year, we rented out to my brother and his wife before they were buying their first house. So there was a little bit of vacancy in there that we're not worried about at all. But we did think when we were struggling to find tenants around the winter time of 21, we were like, we're being too picky. And so summertime rolled around when we had rooms open and we were like, we need to be less picky. And like emotionally, we were telling ourselves that. And so we had a guy come in with a couple of red flags, like a few red flags that would have been a no right off the bat. And he moved in. And
So you signed the lease?
We signed the lease. Because we weren't thinking about it like that. Yeah, it was a very, very good learning lesson in this entire process. He was with us for, I think, 4 months. We never even fully evicted him. I think the thing is my wife and I are very nice people. And so we worked with him and asked him to move out. But there's so many stories that are not... very appropriate.
How'd you go about bringing up that conversation?
It's very obvious when somebody is living in the same house as you and you're constantly talking to them in person or texting them about the issues, whether it's loud noise from late night activities or smelling certain also activities inside the house. Things like this are very obvious. And so when you bring a conversation like that up to somebody, they're not completely surprised that you're like, oh, I got caught. So very, very good learning lesson. So if we were to do the first house all over again, we would do a much better job. That being said, I think lessons are invaluable. At least that's what I tell myself. So,
and sometimes you have to go through, in my opinion, like everyone will get a bad tenant. That's the reality is like you can screen them.
You've had a couple of fun stories.
Yeah, and they passed my background credit. Like they checked out, and sometimes people slip through it. I would say like the reality is if you screen really well, 1% is like the 1 out of 100. Yeah. You'll get one bad one. Like sometimes people go through life events and they go depression. Boyfriend breaks up with them, and they can't handle it, and then they stop paying rent. What do you do? It's just going to happen to over time. You're going to have to deal with situations like that and have to have those hard conversations. But the 99% of the time, it's going to be fine. You'll run it like a business and it's going to be smooth sailing. And that's the difference is the motivated sellers, the motivated landlords that hate being a landlord is they make that 1 out of 100 more like 50 out of 100.
Yeah.
And then they end up burnt out. Like, how could anyone be a landlord? Dealing with tenants is a nightmare, but they didn't go back. They never had good screening processes this whole time.
Or things to protect them, like insurance and like lease agreements and everything else that you need to do ahead of time. And that's where the value of like podcasts like this come in for sure. Because you can go into it blind, basically like what Jake did, and just do a phenomenal job. Or you can do it like what my wife and I did. We're like, oh, we'll try this out.
Yeah.
Well, again, I was following Jeff kind of to the T. I was just nonstop calling him every single day.
Hey, Jake, whatever it takes, man. I'm happy to help.
Answer my questions. But I think that's just for everybody who gets into this is that the screening process is just kind of a unique experience because you start building up, like you start seeing these red flags. It's not something I don't think books can. I mean, you sit there like there's obvious red flags, but then there's like emotional gut feeling when
subtle.
you think or subtle feelings that you think something about them is a little bit off. And I had a lot of experiences with that, and obviously I never had any leases signed with them. And I think it gets better and better over time. The more experience that you add, it's just it's incredibly invaluable.
Jeff, so how is the House Hack maybe 1 and 2 screening process different from number 6 or number.
So I had the screamer in that first house hack.
Yeah.
So that one.
I love that story.
So who handles this is very important. So if you're operating the business, it's a business with a significant other. It's good to know who has like the strengths, whose the weaknesses are. For example, for me, I have my wife take care of a lot of the conflicts, whereas I just identify, like, we just know that's our strength and weaknesses. She's very good at being direct. How do you manage that?
I'm the same way as you. I'm a softie.
So
if I was
Luca.
face to face, I would have a hard time like saying, "Oh, Jake, you have to move out. Jordan, you have to move out." Like I just send Suleika to go do the dirty work, and I'll do all the like the underwriting, the screening. Like that's my favorite part. So I really enjoy that. Like looking at bank statements, I like to find out dirt on people and saying, "Okay, is this guy lying to me? Is he telling me the truth?" Like that, I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
I'm passionate about underwriting. I really like screening people because to me, you have to take it seriously because that's the difference between successful landlords and not.
Yes.
If you don't treat it like a business from day one, then you'll end up, with a bunch of your bad tenants like that.
Yeah.
And then you'd probably be that you'd say, "Oh, it's not for us. We'll just sell." And then that's, real estate can be very hard for some people.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's always two sides to the relationship, and you do have to, if you are going into it in a relationship, like my wife and I have been together for like 7 years, and we just bought last year. So we obviously knew each other very well going into it. But I could see the strain that it would definitely put on, a new relationship. I'm the exact same way though. You got your spreadsheet guys, that are really good at all the underwriting stuff. And then you have somebody who can actually talk to people about everything else.
But to answer your question, going back to the difference between screening on the first one versus the sixth one, I would say I do more extensive than I did back then. So since COVID, I would say there's more fraud or people that try to slip through the cracks. So now I just increase the requirements. So instead of just saying, "Okay, here's an application, just fill it out." And then I verify like the references, the landlord, prior landlords, and the employer and all that. Now I actually do a few more steps. So I look up their employer on LinkedIn, like their supervisor, and actually confirm they actually work at that place of employment. And if I can't verify that, or if it's someone then I'm like, okay, this person's not being genuine with me here. So red flag number 1. I do pay stubs instead of just saying, "Oh, this give me last month's pay stub." Someone might have got let go. Maybe
three pay stubs and 2 months of bank statements.
2 bank statements, yeah.
You match the pay stubs with the bank statements.
Yep, exactly. And you're just doing these few extra steps because someone that's gonna scam you or someone that's trying to sneak their way will not go through all that effort. They'll probably stop when you ask for a bank statement. They'll say, "Why do you want a bank statement?" And then that's like, "Why? Of course I want your bank statement. I don't care what income you make. I just want to verify you actually what your pay stub is matches up to your bank statement." And that's pretty much it. And some people have issues with that. And then there's so much demand for rent by room, good quality tenants that will provide motivated tenant will give you everything you want without even asking any follow-up questions.
Yeah, and to finalize this point more or less is that if they make your job easy, like if you're asking for all the information, they're more than happy to provide you and everything. That's somebody that you want.
Yeah.
If they're like, I don't know, like coming back, like I've had some that I was asked for information and they're like, "Oh, let me get back to you on that." And, you wait like a week or something, or it's like, they're not that serious. You want somebody who is going to be as easy to work with as possible. And those are the goal, I think, the golden tenants.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the type of people who are like prepared for all these apartment complex requirements, because we're basically doing the same requirements. And these apartment complexes don't care if you move in or not. They're large conglomerates, but you're looking for the people who are basically like that prepared, with all of the crazy stuff that goes into those, but don't want to pay that much.
Yeah. So overall, excellent advice for screening tenants from people that are in the trenches doing it themselves. If I had to take like a couple takeaways, it's the importance of screening tenants. And what we touched on briefly was insurance. That's one thing that can get looked over is having a good insurance broker that is investor friendly on your team and on your side, that knows and can help prepare you for the what ifs, because That is your very insurance. Everyone always talks about, hey, let me get a LLC in place. Let me get my a business in place. Well, your first line of defense is your insurance. And that's just the biggest one of the very important things to have on your team as an insurance broker. Awesome. Great discussion. If anyone wants to get in touch with Jordan or Jake, their contact info will be in the show notes. A couple other events coming up is Jeff and I are hosting a summit in the end of February, which is February 25th. It's an all-day summit all about house hacking. So be on the lookout for some early registration. But Jordan, Jake, I appreciate you guys having on. Jeff, always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you both for coming. It was a lot of fun today, and I look forward to hearing your future successes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Cheers.